So things like that happen. I mean, it's you could argue that it was, maybe a poor schedule, and maybe they could schedule him on a bigger court. Yes, but again, she's Alex Eala. Yeah, that's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever, tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's big interest.
Novak Djokovic has now fully addressed the Alex Eala situation at the Australian Open, and his words have intensified an already growing controversy, as Alex Eala, the rising tennis sensation from the Philippines and a source of national pride, suffered a first-round exit that many believe had little to do with her ability, and far more to do with how she was handled by tournament officials, according to Djokovic and several seasoned observers, the WTA's management of her scheduling and court assignment played a significant role in shaping the outcome, as Eala entered the Australian Open carrying heavy expectations, and deserved recognition not only because of her recent form, but because she is widely regarded as the most accomplished tennis player the Philippines has ever produced, having broken long-standing barriers, elevated Filipino tennis to the global stage, and inspired an entire generation. Yet despite her achievements, her growing international following, and her proven potential, she was placed on a smaller, less visible court, rather than being showcased on a larger, more prestigious arena, decision that immediately raised eyebrows and drew open criticism from Djokovic, who stated that a player of her stature deserves respect, proper exposure, and equal treatment as a top-level professional. While some dismiss court placement as a minor detail, those within the sport understand that the size of the venue, the crowd presence, the lighting, the acoustics, and the overall atmosphere can dramatically influence confidence, rhythm, and performance, particularly in a high-pressure Grand Slam setting. For a young player still carving her place on the world stage, making the issue even more concerning is the belief that this was not an isolated incident, but part of a recurring pattern of questionable treatment Alex Eala has encountered throughout her time on the WTA Tour, something longtime followers have repeatedly pointed out, and this concern was amplified during the Australian Open qualifiers, when she struck a ball that was clearly in during a crucial rally, with the mark plainly visible and the angle indisputable. Yet the call was still ruled out, a moment that left fans, analysts, and fellow players questioning whether she has been consistently denied the fairness and respect typically afforded to athletes competing at her level.
Alex a little bit annoyed now. That's the second time that has happened with that same linesman.
Alex Eala was clearly starting to feel frustrated, and understandably so, because this was already the second time the same linesman had made a questionable call against her. And while that alone was bad enough, the situation quickly became even more unacceptable, because instead of simply awarding the point to her opponent, which would have been the wrong call, but at least a definitive decision, the officials chose to replay the entire point, a move that goes against standard tennis procedure, since in this sport, ball is either in or out, and officials are expected to make a clear ruling and stand by it. Yet when it came to Alex Eala, the usual rules suddenly seemed flexible. But what stood out most was how she handled it, because she did not stay silent or allow herself to be pushed around, as she calmly but firmly walked up to the chair umpire, looked them straight in the eye, and made it clear that she understood exactly what was happening. Her composure, her confidence, and her refusal to be intimidated sent a powerful message, and despite the confusing calls, the disruption, and the clear attempts to break her rhythm, she still found a way to win the match, staying mentally strong and focused enough to push all the way to the finals of the Australian Open qualifiers, which speaks volumes about her resilience. But the controversy did not end there, because things became even more troubling during her match against Iga Swiatek, one of the most dominant players in the world, a multiple Grand Slam champion and former world number one. And for a young player like Eala to not only compete but actually challenge someone of that caliber was already remarkable, as she was matching Swiatek shot for shot, building momentum and positioning herself for what could have been one of the biggest upsets of the tournament, when suddenly, and without warning, a referee chose that exact moment to confront her about items in her backpack, turning it into a public spectacle by making the announcement loud enough for the entire stadium to hear, effectively singling her out and attempting to portray her as a rule violator in front of thousands of fans in attendance and millions watching worldwide, a move many felt was unnecessary, disruptive, and deeply unfair at such a critical point in the match.
It's confirmed, you cannot use it.
Imagine the psychological impact this has on a player, because you are locked in, fully focused, competing at the highest level against one of the best players in the world, and suddenly you are being publicly singled out and embarrassed over something minor and unnecessary, which feels like a deliberate attempt to disrupt your rhythm, shake your confidence, and force self-doubt at the exact moment when belief is most critical. And this type of mental interference has absolutely no place in professional sports. Which is precisely why Novak Djokovic's statement carries so much weight, because he is not just offering an outside opinion. He's one of the greatest players in tennis history, a 24-time Grand Slam champion who has spent nearly 2 decades competing at the very top, and understands the difference between fair competition and biased or poorly managed situations. So when someone with his experience speaks out, people should listen because his argument is grounded in reality, as Alex Eala deserves better. She deserves consistent officiating, equal respect, and the same opportunities given to every other player on tour. And the WTA needs to seriously reevaluate how these situations are handled, because court assignments should never feel random. Officiating must be fair and consistent, and young talented players from smaller tennis nations like the Philippines should not be forced to battle questionable management and bias in addition to their opponents. So now the question turns to you. Do you agree with Novak Djokovic that the WTA has mishandled Alex Eala's treatment? Have you noticed this pattern of controversial calls and decisions impacting her matches? Share your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation matters, and let's show support for Alex Eala, who has already overcome so much and continues to rise through it all with talent, resilience, and mental strength, now backed by powerful voices speaking out on her behalf. And if you enjoyed this video and want more tennis coverage that dives into real issues in the sport, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, hit the like button, share this with fellow tennis fans, and help spread awareness about what is really happening in the game we all love. Until next time, keep standing up for fairness in tennis, and I'll see you in the next video.